The Buddha is awakening OSHO. Life is three-dimensional and human beings have the freedom to choose. This freedom is both a curse and a blessing. One can choose to rise upward or one can choose to fall. One can choose the path of darkness or the path of light. No other living being has the freedom to choose. Their lives are predetermined. Because they are predetermined, they cannot go astray. That's the beauty of it. But being predetermined also turns them into machines. And that's the misfortune of it. Humankind has yet to become truly human. We are in the process of becoming, on the way, seeking, probing. We are not yet crystallized. That is why we do not know who we are, because we do not yet exist as a finished being. How can one know oneself if one has not yet come into existence? Before knowing can happen, being must occur. And being can only be achieved if one chooses consciously, with full awareness. Jean-Paul Sartre said that man is a project, that man creates himself through his own efforts, that man is born merely as an opportunity, a possibility, not as a finished reality. One must become that reality. And there is always the possibility that one might miss. Millions of people do miss the mark. It is extremely rare for someone to discover their true being. When someone does discover their being, that person is a Buddha. But the essential requirement is to choose your life with awareness. You must choose anyway. Whether you choose with awareness or not, whether you notice it or not, the choosing will happen. You are not free in the sense that if you don't want to choose, you are permitted not to choose. Even not choosing is itself a choice. Millions of people miss their opportunity precisely because they never choose. They simply wait. They keep hoping that something will happen on its own. But nothing happens that way. You must create the circumstances, the space for something of value, something essential to happen within you. There are two schools of philosophers in the world. One school believes that human beings are born with an essence. This is the essentialist school. It says that one is born already pre-made. This is the notion of all fatalists. The other school is made up of those who call themselves existentialists. They believe that humans are not born with an essence, but merely as an existence. And what is the difference? Essence is predetermined. You bring it into life with you, like a complete blueprint. You need only to reveal it. It's all preset. There is no option to create yourself, to invent yourself. That is a very uncreative perspective. It reduces people to machines. The other school believes that humans are born simply as an existence. The essence must be created. It is not already present. You have to create yourself, to find the means and methods to become, to truly be. You must become the womb for your own being. You must give birth to yourself. Physical birth is not the real birth. You have to be born again. Jesus said to Nicodemus, "Unless you are born again, you shall not enter my God's kingdom." What did he mean? Did Nicodemus first have to physically die? No. Jesus meant something entirely different. Nicodemus must die as an ego. He must die as a personality. He must die as the past, as the mind. Only if he dies to the mind can he be born as a being. In the East, we call the Buddhas twice born, Dviji. Everyone else is born only once. A Buddha is born twice. The first gift of life is given by your parents. The second, you must give to yourself. You can choose among three directions in life. If you choose one direction, you will gain some degree of integration, but because it is only one-dimensional, it will not be complete or whole. The first dimension is that of science, the objective world, the world of objects, of other. The second dimension is that of aesthetics, the world of music, poetry, painting, sculpture, the world of imagination. And the third dimension is that of religion, the subjective, the inward journey. Science and religion are polar opposites. Science focuses outward, religion focuses inward. Between these two extremes lies the realm of aesthetics. It is the bridge. It partakes in both, and yet it is neither exclusively one nor the other. The aesthetic sphere, the artist's realm, is, in a certain sense, objective. That person paints, and a painting is born as an object. But it is also subjective, because before the artist can paint, they must first envision the painting within themselves, within their own subjectivity. Before the poet can sing their song aloud, it is first sung in the innermost recess of their being. It's created there first. Only then does it come out into the external world. It is scientific in the sense that art creates an object, and it is religious in the sense that what art creates must first be imagined in one's inner being. It is a bridge between science and religion. Religion is absolutely inward. It journeys into the core of your interiority, the subjective dimension. These are the three dimensions. If you become a scientist and lose contact with aesthetics and religion, you become one-dimensional. You will be only a third of what you could be. You will not be whole. You may reach a certain integrity, like we see in someone like Albert Einstein, a certain beauty, a certain truth, but only partial. Or you might choose to be an artist, a Picasso, a Van Gogh, a Beethoven, a Rabindranath Tagore. In that case, you'll be somewhat better, because the aesthetic lies in the middle realm, the twilight zone. You will have something of religion within you. Every poet has some bit of religion, perhaps without realizing it, but no poet can exist without some flavor of the religious. That's impossible. Even the most atheistic artist must possess a certain religious element. Without it, they wouldn't be a genius. Without it, they would merely be a technician, a craftsman, but not a true artist. Even someone like Jean-Paul Sartre, who certainly was an atheist and would never acknowledge anything religious, in some way has something religious about him. He created major novels, and the characters in those novels have profound interiority. That interior dimension must have been lived by this man, because otherwise he couldn't have written it. It was experienced. And whoever enters the aesthetic realm must possess some quality of science too. They will be more logical than the religious person, more object-oriented than the religious person, of course, less object-oriented than the scientist, less logical than the scientist, yet more logical than the purely religious. They will be in a more balanced state. Choosing aesthetics may be somewhat better because, in its own way, it partakes of all three dimensions, yet only partially. It's still not the totality. A religious person is also one-dimensional, just like a scientist. Albert Einstein was one-dimensional, and so was Gautama the Buddha. Because the East became a one-dimensional religion, it has suffered greatly. And now the West is also suffering because it is likewise one-dimensional in its own way. The West is bankrupt with regard to the inner world. The East is bankrupt with regard to the outer world. It is no coincidence that the East is poor and starving. It chose that path. It denied science, even denying objective material reality. It declared the world to be Maya, an illusion. If the world is illusion, how can you create science? The fundamental prerequisite for science is denied. You cannot create science out of Maya, out of what doesn't exist, out of something that isn't real. By rejecting the world, you reject the dimension of science. That is why the East is poor and hungry. And until the Eastern geniuses realize this, we can import science from the West all we like, but it won't take root in our being. If we continue clinging to the same approach we've held for 5,000 years, science will remain foreign. That's exactly how it is. A fourth way, science, aesthetics, and religion together. In India, you may find a renowned scientist in his specialized field, yet who leads a thoroughly unscientific life. He may consult a palm reader or an astrologer. He may go bathe in the Ganges, believing the sins of his many lifetimes will be washed away. He may still believe in 1,001 things that are mere superstition, and yet he remains a scientist. Science remains peripheral. His soul is still rooted in the ancient Eastern past that is unscientific. The East has suffered greatly because of one-dimensionality, and now the West too is suffering for the same reason, one-dimensionality. The West has chosen science at the expense of religion. Now God is denied, the soul is denied. Man is first reduced to an animal and then to a machine. Man has lost all glory, all higher dignity. Man has lost all hope, all future. The moment man loses his interiority, he loses depth and becomes shallow. The Western man is wealthy with regard to objects, but very poor in spirit, poor on the inside, rich on the outside. This is the state of affairs right now. In between these two extremes, there are some artists who have something of both realms. Yet even the artist is not fulfilled because he merely brings a little of both. He is not truly scientific, nor is he truly religious. At most, he gets glimpses of both worlds. He remains in a kind of limbo, wandering like a nomad between these two extremes. Such a person doesn't contribute much because he is not a scientist, therefore cannot contribute scientifically, and not a religious person, thus cannot contribute religiously. At best, his art remains a mere decoration. It may make life a little more beautiful, comfortable, or pleasant, but not much more than that. I propose a fourth way. A truly real human being will be all three dimensions simultaneously. He will be scientific, aesthetic, and religious. And I call that the fourth type, a spiritual human being. That is how I differ from Albert Einstein, from Gautama the Buddha, and from Picasso, different from all three. You must remember my distinction. The Buddha was one-dimensional, exquisitely so. In matters of the inner world, he was one of the greatest teachers, a master of inner reality. There is no surpassing him there, but he was still one-dimensional. He attained immense peace, silence, and bliss, but he contributed nothing objective to the world. Albert Einstein objectively contributed to the world in a significant way, but he could not offer anything regarding the inner world, so his contribution became a disaster. He suffered all his life because he was the one who suggested creating the atomic bomb. He wrote a letter to the American president. Now is the time. Without the atomic bomb, the war might continue for years and be more destructive. Only by creating an atomic bomb and threatening to use it can the war be ended. But once power, any kind of power, falls into the hands of politicians, you cannot stop them from using it. Politicians are the most foolish people in the world, crazy with power. Once the atomic bomb was in the hands of American politicians, they had to drop it somewhere. Hiroshima and Nagasaki became inevitable. And when it happened, it was a profound wound, a great regret for Albert Einstein. He spent the rest of his life lamenting it. Near the end of his life, someone asked him, "If God gave you another chance to be born again, would you still wish to be a scientist?" He replied, "No, certainly not, absolutely not. I would rather be a plumber than a scientist. Enough is enough. I have not been a blessing to the world. I have been a disaster." He undoubtedly enriched the outer world, but he did not grow within. When outer growth occurs without inner growth, you become unbalanced. You own many possessions, but you do not possess yourself. You have all the things that could make you happy, yet you are not happy because happiness does not come from what you own. Happiness is inner wealth. It is the awakening of your own energy. It is the awakening of your soul. The Buddha contributed immeasurably to the subjective dimension. He was a magnificent teacher. Everything he said was absolutely correct, but it was one-dimensional. Never forget that. My endeavor here is to create a fourth way, a person who unites all three dimensions of life within themselves, becoming a trinity, a trimurti, possessing all three faces of the divine. Such a person holds the logical mind required by science, the poetic sensibility required by aesthetics, and the meditative, observant capacity the Buddhas recommend. This fourth person is the hope of the world. The fourth way is the only possibility for humanity's future. If humanity is to survive on this earth, we must discover a grand synthesis among these three dimensions. And if all three dimensions can be realized, integrated, melted into one, naturally, that integration is the fourth way. I speak of the Buddha, of Mahavira, of Jesus, of Patanjali, of Lao Tzu, and many more. But remember that each of these individuals was one-dimensional. I want to enrich your life with their teachings, yet I do not end with them. I want you to delve deeper into the other dimensions as well. Hence, the new commune is soon to become a place where East meets West, where the subjective meets the objective. In this new commune, we will have scientists, artists, poets, painters, singers, musicians, meditators, yogis, mystics, people of every sort pouring their energies into one grand river. And that is how I envision the entire world. The Buddha is integrated into this vision. That is why I speak of him. And of course, the third dimension, religion, is among the most vital dimension. Without it, all else becomes soulless. Today's discourse. A fool pays no attention, but the one who guards his awareness, this is his most precious treasure. The Buddha does not call someone foolish because they are uneducated or lack understanding. According to the Buddha, a person is considered foolish if they are unconscious, if they act without awareness, if they live in a state of sleep, if they are merely a dreamer. If a person behaves without mindfulness, then that person is a fool. Remember, unawareness, lack of discernment, no mindfulness, that is the Buddha's definition of a fool. That person drifts through life like floating debris, carried by the wind. They do not know who they are, where they are going, or what path they are on. They live by chance. They simply exist through chance events throughout their lifetimes. They lack awareness. They do not consciously seek their true essence, the truth or reality. They follow the crowd. They remain merely a part of the collective mind. They are not an individual. They do not possess true independent intelligence. They simply follow others. Their parents say one thing, their teachers, monks, and politicians say something, and they obediently heed every piece of advice. They have never asked themselves, why am I here? For what purpose? And why? Such questions make the foolish very uncomfortable. They create anxiety and thus they avoid them. They accept the answers they are given without ever questioning them, because doubt causes discomfort. They remain as Hindus, Muslims, or Christians. They have never dared to explore or venture to discover their own true nature. They have never gone on an inner quest. They are not adventurers. Their lives are not adventures. They are stagnant, hidden, sluggish. You cannot separate such a person from their herd. They are like sheep. This is what the Buddha calls a fool. A fool can appear very wise. Indeed, nearly all fools seem that way. They may be scholars, intellectuals, or great professors. This is how they hide their foolishness. By amassing external knowledge, they mask the ignorance that exists at their very core. There are two kinds of people. One kind is very learned yet truly knows nothing. They possess a kind of ignorant knowledge. The other kind, though not erudite, does know, and they hold a kind of genuine knowing ignorance. When the Buddha uses the term foolish, he does not refer to the latter type, since the Buddha himself did not consider himself a wise man in that sense, nor did Jesus or Muhammad. They were all simple and innocent, so pure, so childlike, that they could penetrate to the very core of their being and know their own truth. They know, yet they are not wise. Their knowing does not come from scriptures but through observation. Remember the source. Genuine knowing arises through meditation, through awareness, mindfulness, observation, and witnessing. And counterfeit knowledge does not come from the scriptures. You may easily learn superficial knowledge and boast about it, but you will still remain foolish even after all your learning. If you truly wish to know, you must discard all your accumulated knowledge. You must dismantle it. You must return once again to a state of not knowing, like a small child, with wide-eyed wonder, with pure alertness. Then you will be able to know not only your own essence, but also the existence of all things in the world: trees, birds, animals, rocks, stars. If you have the capacity to know your own being, you will know everything that exists. God is just another name for all that exists. The fool does not pay attention. By not paying attention, the Buddha means that such a person acts unconsciously. They do not know what they are doing. They simply go about their business because they can never afford to be idle. They are always in a state of busyness. They cannot be alone. They always crave company. They cannot exist without engagement because whenever they are not busy and have no one by their side, they are forced to confront themselves, and that terrifies them. That person does not want to venture into the depths of their own inner self. Everything they think they know seems meaningless inwardly. All of their knowledge, all their efficiency, all their scriptures, all their theories become utterly insignificant in the inner world. They cling to external things because that is where they feel like somebody. But inwardly, there is nothing there. Watch the people around you. In fact, it is the greatest entertainment, standing by the roadside and simply observing people. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? And then observe yourself. What are you doing and why? For example, a man goes to pick up a young woman in a hotel lobby and escorts her up to a room. They both undress, but then the girl says, "First, kick me out. I want to feel ignited, excited." The man chases her for 2 hours but fails to catch her, leaving in anger. The next night, he sees her arriving with another target in the same lobby, and he sneaks to the fire escape to watch the failure of this foolish new man through the window. When he sees bare feet gliding past in the shadow beneath the window, he mutters, "Ah, my friend, grab onto that." Immediately, a man's voice shouts in his ear, "You said that." Then the woman says, "I don't understand. What do you mean by car door dog?" She continues, "Yes, a car door dog. Once they catch a car, they have no idea what to do with it, and that is exactly how my husband is. He chases after women, grabs them, but then doesn't know what to do with them. I know him. That's why I'm not worried." This is the situation. There is someone who desperately wants to be famous and would spend their entire life becoming famous. Yet when they do become famous, they don't know what to do with it. In fact, once you become very famous, you long for not being famous anymore because it becomes too burdensome. You cannot feel at ease. You lose your privacy and cannot live a personal life. People are always watching, observing, scrutinizing your life. You cannot laugh or converse freely. Everything becomes difficult. Just a few days ago, Jimmy Carter said that if Kennedy opposed him in the presidential election, he'd whip his ass. But later, he was condemned worldwide for using those words. Even if spoken innocently, you simply cannot. He was forced to feel regret because he had sinned. You do not have a private life when you are famous, whether you are the president, a Nobel laureate, or any public figure. You must always maintain a polished image. You cannot freely express yourself. People have money, yet they do not know what to do with it. By nature, human beings are foolish. The wise move deliberately, step by step, with awareness. The life of the wise is a constant quest for truth. They do not get lost. They remain alert in every action, not because of others, but because they are true to themselves. Through the integration of awareness, they become crystallized. The fool does not pay attention. By not paying attention, the Buddha means that such a person acts unconsciously. In contrast, the wise nurture their own awareness. They care for themselves, for their own life, and for others. They care for everything because they value their own life. They know that life is precious, that it is the opportunity God has given for growth, and that it must not be lost in a state of drunken stupor. Consider, for example, a reformed prostitute who has joined a rescue organization and is now testifying on a street corner. "I used to be accustomed to lying in the arms of men," she confesses, "white men, black men, Chinese men, but now I lie in the arms of Jesus." "Exactly, sister," a drunkard shouts from the back row. "Fuck all of them." Observe others and observe yourself, and you will be astonished at how unconsciously and drunkenly we behave, how careless we are. We do not listen to what is spoken. We do not truly see what we see. Our eyes are clouded, our minds muddled, and our beings lack clarity. We neither feel nor are sensitive. We blurt out things we do not intend, and then we suffer for them. We say things we never truly wanted to say, and we do things. Even while doing them, we know that we do not really wish to, yet we continue regardless. An unconscious force drives us. Sometimes we even decide not to do something or not to speak, and yet we end up doing it, contrary to our very decision. We have no true resolve, no determined will. We have no will at all. For example, a man goes to pick up a young woman in a hotel lobby and takes her up to a room. They both undress, but then the girl, hesitantly, makes a final request to her companion. "You know that you and my mother have never gotten along, but please, grant me a special favor. Could you take my mother by car to the cemetery?" The man, in distress, replies, "All right, but that will ruin my whole day." This is no joke. It happens every day. You say things that you know you shouldn't, but only after the harm has been done. These are the unconscious outbursts that escape us. Now, that person might weep and say to his wife, "Without you, I cannot live. I always feel empty without you. A part of my soul will die along with you." But in that very moment, he has forgotten everything. The fool does not pay attention, but the one who vigilantly guards his awareness is his most precious treasure. The foolish remain enslaved by their instincts, by their unconscious desires, by the sudden ideas that arise, by the society in which they were born, by the zeitgeist, enslaved by whatever happens around them. They simply pick up whatever the crowd does. If the neighbor buys a new car, they must buy a new car. If the neighbor buys a new house on the hill, they must also buy a new house. It may be difficult and burdensome to manage money. Perhaps you must borrow and spend years repaying a debt, but still, you must buy. Their ego becomes wounded. Everyone lives by imitation, very carelessly. In Eskimo tradition, every New Year's Day, each family searches through their home for unnecessary items and reorganizes, keeping only what is absolutely essential. You would be amazed to know that an Eskimo home is among the cleanest in the world, pure, with no clutter, no accumulation. It is compact yet spacious. They keep only what is absolutely necessary. Think about all the things you accumulate. Are they truly necessary? Do you really need them? Or do you accumulate simply because others do? The observer becomes the master of his own life. That person lives his own life, in the light of his own being, not following the life of others. That person lives according to his own needs. And remember, your needs are few. If you are wise and observant, you will have a life that is very fulfilling, simple, and centered on the little things. But if you merely imitate, then your life will become excessively complicated and unnecessary. I do not intend to prescribe exactly what you must have or not have. I simply say, just observe, keep with you whatever is necessary, and discard whatever is unnecessary. That is the way of the sannyasin. I do not advocate renouncing everything, but I certainly support discarding all that is unnecessary. And it is not only about the accumulation of unneeded things, but also about the craving for those things. Have you ever truly meditated on whether they are needed at all? Do they serve any useful purpose? Do they make you happier, more blissful? Before you begin to crave something, think about it 3 times, and you will be amazed. Out of 100 desires, 99 are utterly useless. They only keep you busy. That is their only function. They keep you from being with yourself. They inadvertently cause you to waste your whole life, and finally, you will die impoverished by your own excess. And guard your own awareness. I have heard a husband and wife were driven nearly insane by the prolonged stay of the wife's brother, who had come for a weekend visit but lingered for 6 months. They devised a plan. The wife would cook chicken, and the husband would pretend it was overcooked. They would pick a fight with the brother-in-law. If he said the chicken was tasty, the husband would throw him out. If he said it was bad, the wife would throw him out. The scheme was foolproof. The scene was set as planned, with plenty of shouting and mock accusations, while the brother-in-law quietly devoured the free meal. Suddenly, the husband and wife stopped quarreling and turned to him. "Harry," said the husband, "what do you think?" "Me?" Harry said, biting into a chicken leg. "I think I'll stay another 3 months." He had to be very observant, very attentive, very awake. He did not fall into the trap. It was certainly a clever snare. Unless one is extremely alert, one is sure to be trapped. He gave no opinion. He merely stated a fact. "I plan to stay another 3 months." Live with observation and you won't be trapped. Live unconsciously, and at every turn you'll be caught. Your life becomes increasingly imprisoned, and no one is responsible for that but you. But the one who guards his awareness, this is his most precious treasure. Whatever he does with total mindfulness. Whatever you do almost like a machine. You must de-automate yourself. That is what meditation means, the process of de-automation. You have become automatic. You keep driving, smoking, chatting with your friends, and churning 1,001 thoughts inside. Most accidents happen for that reason. Many people die each year in car, train, plane accidents, and similar mishaps, more than the number who die in wars. Adolf Hitler may not have killed as many people as die every year due to the mechanical, unconscious behaviors of mankind around the world. Yet, what can you do? That's how you live, how you exist. You eat, simply stuffing yourself without paying attention to what you're eating. You make love to your spouse without even seeing your partner's face. You have become insensitive. You just go through empty gestures, devoid of meaning. They cannot carry any meaning until you're filled with wakefulness. It is precisely the light of awareness that makes everything valuable, extraordinary. Then, small things are no longer small. When a person with attentiveness, sensitivity, and love picks up a pebble on a beach, it becomes a Koh-i-Noor diamond. If you hold a Koh-i-Noor in an unconscious state, it might as well be a pebble, perhaps even less than that. Your life will gain depth and significance if you become aware. All over the world, people now ask, what is the meaning of life? Naturally, the meaning is lost because you've lost the way to meaning, and that way is awareness. That is his most precious treasure. He does not yield to desire. What does the Buddha mean by desire? Desire means the entirety of your mind. Desire means not being here and now. Desire is going somewhere into the future, into the not yet. Desire means countless escapes from the present. Desire is synonymous with mind. In the Buddha's vocabulary, desire is mind. Desire is also time. When I say desire is time, I don't mean the clock time, but rather psychological time. How do you create a future in your mind? Through desire. You want to do something tomorrow, so you create tomorrow. Otherwise, tomorrow does not exist. Because you wish to do something tomorrow, you have created tomorrow in your psyche. Everyone is busy creating next year, their next birth. They even plan what to do after this life, after death. They're already prepared. And these people are thought to be religious. In fact, they're anything but religious. Desire propels them away from the here now, while here now is the only reality. Therefore, the Buddha says, he never yields to desire. He does not go into the future. He dwells in the present. Living in the future is living a fictitious life, a life only in appearance. A fashionable artist once refused a young man's plea for her favor, mocking him for being Jewish, and laughed at his offer of 100,000 francs. She told him that, to show him how small he was, she would accept his money, and he could have her while those 100,000 francs burned to ash. He returned the next day with the money, placing 10 bills in a line, lighting the first, and climbed into bed with her. When the last note went up in flames, she pushed him away. "All right, I've had you," he said triumphantly. "Yes," she smiled, "and 100,000 francs is now ashes." "It doesn't matter." He lit a cigarette. "They were all counterfeit anyway." The one who lives in the future lives a counterfeit life. He never truly lives. He only pretends to live. He hopes to live, desires to live, but has never actually lived. And tomorrow never comes. It is always today. Whatever arrives is always now here, and he does not know how to live now and here. He only knows how to flee from this moment. That flight is called tanha, the Buddha's term for escaping the present, fleeing from what is real into what is unreal. The one who desires is the one who escapes. It's truly ironic that the meditator is often labeled as an escapist. This is entirely nonsensical, because the only person who is not running away is the meditator. Everyone else is running away. Meditation means a release from desire, a release from thoughts, a release from the mind. Meditation means relaxing into this very moment, into the present. Meditation is the sole thing in this world that is not an escape, even though it is frequently regarded as the greatest form of escapism. Those who condemn meditation always say that it's an evasion of life, but they simply do not understand what they are talking about. Meditation is not running away from life, it's running into life. It's the mind that is running away from life, and desire that flees from reality. He never yields to desire. He meditates. He brings himself back to the present. Again and again, the mind starts to run, and he brings it back to the present. Gradually, a window opens, and for the first time you see the sky as it truly is. For the first time you feel the wind, the rain, and the sun in all their directness, because you have become meditative. You begin to truly touch life. Then life is no longer a mere word. It becomes tangible reality. Love is no longer just a concept, but an overflowing energy. Bliss is no longer just a desire or a hope. You experience it, you have it, you are it. The Buddha does not support prayer. He supports meditation because prayer is still, in some way, a form of desire. Whenever you pray, you desire. Prayer is always about the future. Prayer means you're asking for something. You might not be asking for money, but you may be asking for God Himself, which amounts to the same. By asking, you've already moved away from what is real. Meditation is a state of no asking, no questioning, no thinking. Prayer is still part of thinking, a lovely form of thinking perhaps, but it remains thinking. A beautiful prison, but still a prison. A prayerful mind is a greedy mind, and the praying mind doesn't undergo transformation. It stays the same mind, and that prayer emerges from the same mind. It cannot carry a different quality. How can you possibly pray for something that's entirely beyond you? It merely reflects your own mind. It arises out of your mind. It springs from your mind. So how can it lead you beyond that mind? Prayer cannot take you beyond the mind. Only meditation can do so. Meditation is the state of no mind. Prayer is the condition of a religious mind, but that mind remains. Once it puts on a beautiful religious garb, it grows even more dangerous. A young boy went camping and got separated from his family. Realizing he was lost and it was getting dark, he panicked, wandering aimlessly and calling for his parents with no reply. At last he knelt down and prayed, raising his hands toward the sky. God, please help me find my mommy and daddy. I promise I won't ever hit my little sister again. I swear on my honor. While he was kneeling there praying, a bird flew overhead and dropped a blob of excrement right into his upturned hand. The boy inspected it and looked up at the sky. "Oh, please, God," he complained, "not that kind of shit. I'm seriously lost." Your prayer is your own prayer. It's part of you, an extension of you. It cannot help you transcend yourself. Only meditation can help you transcend yourself. Meditation is the only way to rise above yourself. What is meditation then? It isn't meditation in the English sense. There is no precise English equivalent for the Buddha's term samasati. It has been translated as right mindfulness, awareness, consciousness, attentiveness, alertness, or witnessing. But none of these words on their own fully captures the essence of samasati. Samasati means consciousness present without any content, no thought, no desire, no inner stirrings. You do not ponder God or nature or scriptures. You do not recite mantras, for those are all within the mind, content of the mind. You do nothing whatsoever. Your mind is completely empty, and you simply abide in that emptiness, a pure, unburdened presence, resting within your being. This is what the Buddha means by meditation, samasati. No one has expressed meditation as superbly as the Buddha. He was a master of words with a powerful skill in conveying his teaching. He never yields to desire. He meditates. And in the strength of his resolve, he discovers true happiness. Bliss is true happiness. What you ordinarily call happiness is just misery in disguise. Your usual idea of happiness is nothing more than entertainment, amusement. Thus, it is temporary. It cannot be eternal truth. If something is truly real, it must carry within it the quality of eternity. Otherwise, it is merely temporary. True happiness can only be found when the mind completely ceases to function. It does not come from outside. It wells up from deep within your own being, beginning to overflow your very essence. You become radiant. You become a fountain of bliss. He transcends desire, and from the tower of wisdom, he looks down with dispassion upon the sorrowful crowd. From the mountain peak, he observes those who live close to the earth. When someone becomes a Buddha, when desire, mind, time, and ego are transcended, that person no longer belongs to this world, even though they still dwell within it. Their spirit rises so high that, from the sunlit peak of their being, they can observe the sorrowful masses below, struggling blindly in the dark valleys of life, intoxicated, quarrelsome, greedy, angry, violent, wasting countless precious opportunities. Great compassion wells up in the Buddha's heart. All their former passion turns first into dispassion and then blossoms into profound compassion. Passion means using others as means, and this is the foundation of immorality. Every being is an end unto itself. To use another as a means is exploitation. That is precisely what we commonly call love. Husbands use wives. Wives use husbands. Children use parents. Parents use children. But that is not love. It is merely a strategy of the mind, a sugar-coated poison. This love is only a disguise, and thus you see the entire world drowning in misery. Such love weakens the soul of humanity because it's not true love. It's merely passion, craving, using others as instruments. When you begin meditation, you enter a second stage, dispassion. Your so-called love disappears. You enter an intermediate phase. Just as when shifting gears in a car, you must pass through neutral, passion passes into neutrality, becoming dispassionate, and love seems to vanish. In this period, one who is progressing towards Buddhahood becomes completely serene, detached, and then the third stage emerges. When one reaches Buddhahood, when one has discovered bliss, the eternal fountain of bliss, AES Dhammo Sanantano, when one has realized the timeless principle, the inexhaustible treasure of existence, one begins to overflow. Love returns. Indeed, real love appears for the first time as compassion. Now such a person showers compassion on all. Whoever approaches them shares in their bliss, their path, their clarity. Mindful in simple things, awake while others dream, swift as a racehorse. He leaves the field far behind. When meditation and compassion have become your very nature, you no longer fall asleep or dream. Your awareness continues even in sleep. Then your life becomes an arrow flying straight toward the ultimate goal at immense speed and clarity. For the first time, you truly become an authentic being. Swift as a racehorse, he leaves the field behind. Mindful in simple things, awake while others dream. That is the difference between a Buddha and an ordinary person. Ordinary people merely dream. They have not yet truly lived. They hope to live someday. They prepare to live, but never truly live. And before that someday arrives, death has already come. The Buddha is awakening. Even while he sleeps, he does not dream. When desire vanishes, so do dreams. Dreams are merely desire rendered in the language of sleep. The Buddha sleeps, yet with absolute wakefulness. The inner light continues to burn within him. The body must sleep, so the body sleeps, but he need not sleep. His energy is inexhaustible. At the very core of his being there burns a small, eternal flame. Though his entire periphery sinks into slumber, that inner light remains awake. We sleep even when we think we are awake, but he remains awake even while sleeping. By observation, Indra becomes the king of the gods. How wondrous is true observation, yet how foolish is heedless sleep. The ascetic who vigilantly watches his mind and fears the shadow of his own thoughts burns all attachments away with the flame of his vigilance. Ascetic is the term the Buddha uses for a sannyasin. In my language, sannyasin means one who knows how to live correctly, not a beggar. The Buddha renounced his kingdom and became a beggar, which is why people call him ascetic. But I wish for you to be masters of yourselves, so I choose the term sannyasin, emphasizing celebration and joy rather than painful renunciation. The ascetic who watches his mind and fears the mixing of his own thoughts cannot fall. That person finds the path to peace. The mind is a chaos, thousands of thoughts shouting, clamoring for attention, and miraculously you still maintain an external structure. But deep inside, an unceasing battle rages. If you realize that your mind is a jumble and no longer identify with it, you will never fall. The mind becomes powerless. You gradually withdraw energy from it, and once the mind dies, you are reborn as no mind. That rebirth is enlightenment, peace, what the Buddha calls the lotus paradise, the realm of bliss. Otherwise, you remain trapped in hell. But if you are determined, if you choose, If you invest all your energy into wakefulness, you can leap from hell into heaven. It depends on you. You can choose hell easily because it requires only unconsciousness, or choose heaven, which demands great effort and steadfast determination. Hell means living as you always have, while heaven means transcending yourself, climbing to the highest peak. These peaks are reserved for you, but they come at a cost. Climbing a peak is not easy. Observe, meditate, and one day you will find yourself atop a mountain bathed in sunlight. That is liberation, moksha, nirvana, the end of the ego and the birth of the divine. You have the right to become God. If you cannot, then only you are responsible. Listen to the Buddha, not merely listen, but act. Commit yourself to a conscious life, fully engage. But remember, this is only one dimension. The Buddha has given you one dimension. I want you to embody all three dimensions and unite them into a fourth way. The old kind of man is no more, has no future, cannot survive. A new kind of man must be born, a man in which East and West meet, where all three dimensions merge. Otherwise, humanity will remain in a very precarious state. The experiment I am conducting here is to create the very first model of the new human. You are participating in a grand, immensely significant experiment. Consider yourself blessed. Perhaps you are not fully aware yet, but you may already be making history. It all depends on how you engage, how you participate with me in this experiment. This is the most comprehensive integration ever attempted.